So I don't believe we need any introductions. Everybody knows the councillors. But Councillor Duran has a special function he had to attend tonight at the fire department. He is a member of the fire department, so I believe he has a presentation that the chair, Councillor Ramsey, will read into the minutes. So welcome the Journal Pioneer, Colin, welcome. And Mr. Thibodeau from CBC, your first visit to City Hall, I understand. In the new City Hall. So welcome. And we welcome our viewers on YouTube. We're all over the world now, I guess, if anybody wants to watch. And members of the public, it's great to have a few members of the public here. See, we have our Executive Director from the Chamber of Commerce, Maddox, welcome to, and as well as the Executive Director for Downtown, Lydia Potter, and some directors from downtown. And we have representative from EPSI and a representative from the seniors. We also a representative from our auditors, Grant Thornton, welcome. And directors, we'll make mention of our directors who are very important and were very important during the budget discussions over the last number of months. We have our CAO, Rob Philpott. I guess this will be our first budget presentation as CAO, even though he was Director of Finance for many years. And we have Gordon McFarlane, our in-house lawyer, as also our Director of Human Resources and Legal. And we have our Police Chief Dave Poirier is with us tonight. We have Chief Enman from the Fire Department. And we have J.P. DeRosier, the Chief or Director of at Credit Union Place and Community Services. We have Kristen Dunsford is where? She's there. She's over here. She's the Director of Finance. And Mr. T. Mike Tesuska is with us. Is he around the corner? Director of Economic Development. And I had mentioned Brian Herlick. He's running the controls there for our system. And so welcome everybody, and we'll continue on with the agenda. It was quite a process. This is my, I believe, 30th or 31st budget, and it's a difficult time for council to get through a budget. But at the end of the day, you have no other choice. We have to have a budget brought in, and council worked very hard, and a lot of meetings during the day and during the evening, and we all know, and sometimes the meetings were not really all that much fun, but it had to be done. And I'd like to welcome one of our former councillors, Peter Holman, is with us tonight. Welcome, Peter. You sat here for a number of years. So anyway, we got through the budget, and I'll be turning it over to the Deputy Mayor there shortly to read the Chair of Finance and to read the budget. So I guess that's all we have, I'll mention for now. And at this point, Deputy Mayor McColman, if you want to come forward and present the budget.
Well, I'm very grateful that our Mayor Stewart saved me about 5 minutes with the introduction, so thank you, Your Worship.
Okay.
I'm all ready. I have mints, I have a cough drop in case I start to cough, and I have a glass of water, so we're ready to go. Are you ready to rumble?
Ready to rumble. Right.
All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for coming out. We really appreciate it. I also want to say a special good evening to Your Worship and my fellow council members, city staff members, members of the public, as well as members of the media and distinguished guests and members in our gallery this evening. I would like to welcome each and every one of you and thank you for attending tonight's preview of the city's budget for April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021. The City of Summerside's top priority is service to our residents and making our community a great place to live, work, and raise a family. This is due in no small part to our devoted, capable, and hardworking staff who often go above and beyond the call of duty to deliver city programs and services. I also would like to extend my sincere appreciation to my colleagues on City Council. As we are coming into the midpoint of our term this fall, it is an ideal time to pause and reflect into our tenure since taking office. On behalf of all members of council, I would also like to extend our gratitude and appreciation to the CAO, directors, and managers for their guidance and support during the preparation of this budget. To all city staff, a huge thank you for your professionalism and daily work for Summerside residents. Mayor and council appreciate your continuous efforts and keeping them in mind in the best interests of our community. With that in mind, Your Worship, one theme for this year's budget is acknowledging our past while envisioning a prosperous future. There has been and will continue to be much change, not only within the city, but across our great province as well. It is about evolving and adapting to meet the needs of our community, but it's also about continuing to build on recent successes of our great city by capitalizing on opportunities as they arise. But first, let's reflect on the year just passed. The city's leadership on energy efficiency and utilizing greener sources of energy continues to evolve. For example, this past year has seen the city's partnership with Samsung Energy Services ascend to a whole new level. We are already recognizing the benefits of our partnership with Samsung Energy Services on the Credit Union Place Solar Energy Project, which helps reduce the city's carbon footprint and is projected to realize savings of $100,000 annually and displace 181 tons of carbon over the next 10 years. More recently, residents will recall that the city entered into phase 2 of this partnership, which will see an 80-acre solar farm built in our city and which will result in almost 60% of our energy needs being produced locally by wind and solar power. This energy utilization and leadership is unprecedented for a community of our size. More importantly, it allows our community to be responsible stewards of the environment by using greener sources of energy. In addition, the city's energy management partnership with Honeywell Incorporated will help reduce our energy consumption by $390,000 annually and displace 300 tons of carbon over the lifetime of this project, while capitalizing on the expertise of this organization well into the future. These energy-related programs are proactive, comprehensive, and will continue to benefit residents for years to come. This builds upon our existing programs, such as Heat for Less Now, and helps bring added value to our community. Thanks to the tireless efforts of our mayor and my council colleagues, we are on the verge of other economic opportunities for our city and the region, which build on our strengths in areas such as energy, generation, and renewal. We will continue to focus on expanding and diversifying our commercial tax base and provide the building blocks to grow our city. Our commercial tax base comprises 18% of our total base. Our goal is to adjust that proportion to 21% in 4 years. In addition, to help those who are dealing with the challenges of finding a home, the city has entered into partnerships with the province, the Government of Canada, and the private sector to develop attractive, affordable housing for our city. This will complement some of the newer residential developments that are taking shape as we speak. Finally, the city is putting together various programs to stimulate further development and expansion of residential and commercial activity in our downtown core to make it an attractive area to live and do business. Now, let's turn our attention to what 2020-21 will bring to our city. As it is with all municipal councils, our council has had to make choices in the face of competing demands for resources. The most objective way to do this is to use agreed upon principles and priorities as a foundation for making the decisions that need to be made. One such principle is sustainability. Citizens have told us that debt management, economic development, and infrastructure are major priorities, but not at the expense of placing an additional burden on city taxpayers and residents. Council has heeded this advice with perhaps its most important budget decision. That is, setting the property tax rate. I am pleased to announce, therefore, that there will be no property tax rate increases in 2020-21.
Here, here.
Maintaining tax rates at their current levels while continuing to provide a high level of service in the face of escalating costs is not easy. But I am confident that City Council, management, and staff are up to the task. We believe that by not increasing rates, we will attract more development, more business, more families, and more jobs to our city. We are sending out the signal that we are open for business. In light of the high service standards our residents deserve from our programs and services, we must design them to be as cost-effective and sustainable as possible. Ideally, we would have sufficient revenues to support all the programs and services that everyone needs and wants. Even though expenses have increased by approximately 13% over the past 5 years, our revenues have not grown at the same pace. We are addressing this challenge through a multi-pronged approach. Thanks in part to a renewal fiscal partnership with the Government of Prince Edward Island, we are able to deliver quality municipal services in an environment of increasing demands under the auspices of the new Municipal Government Act. In addition, and more importantly, we are taking steps to elevate our commercial and residential tax base to counter the effects of these rising costs. The city also intends to build on the role as a regional energy leader and to assert the security for its residents to receive safe, cost-effective, and reliable electricity. We recognize the increasing demands on the province's energy grid, and we intend to show leadership on the generation, transmission, and delivery of electricity to customers. We are following through on recommendations on capacity planning from Dunsky Consulting, which gives us added confidence that we are taking the right steps to strengthen our energy security. Nevertheless, our ability to secure the future delivery of electricity comes with a significant annual cost, which I will describe in further detail shortly. First of all, I would like to take a few minutes to discuss our investments in critical infrastructure. Municipal infrastructure literally is the foundation on which our communities are built. It moves people, goods and services, preserves public safety, provides clean and safe drinking water, handles our waste, creates opportunities for sport and recreation, and helps protect our homes against flooding and other unforeseen events. The city accounts for this infrastructure through a capital improvement plan, which forecasts our infrastructure requirements over the next decade. This is a comprehensive plan detailing the scheduling of construction or replacement of roads, sidewalks, ditch infilling, and sewers, as well as the replacement or acquisition of equipment and other needs. More importantly, it also outlines how the city intends to pay for these needs and how we may leverage the support of other partners to contribute to these projects. To ensure the city continues to have sustainable and effective infrastructure in place, I am pleased to announce that the city will be committing almost $22 million in capital investments in the year 2020-21. This includes a breakdown on the following: $1.9 million for the electric system, $2.1 million for the water system, $1.9 million for the sewer system, $836 for paving and streets, and $293,000 for sidewalks, including $105,000 for new sidewalks. I am pleased in particular to report that this will include $10 million to start the next phase of construction of our new Eco Park, $200,000 to continue our planning and design of changes to the Pope Road extension and Central Street intersection, and $1.6 million to renew various parts of our water system. Some of that water system is over 100 years old. A vital project which will enhance our capacity to provide safe and clean drinking water to our residents. It will also include $323,000 as part of our annual ditch infill program, addressing areas of need in the community. As well, we will be commencing a multi-year project to renew and update what is known as our gateway signage, the signs that welcome visitors to our great city. The first sign restoration will take place at the entrance to Reed's Corner. In addition, our council is taking steps to make the community safer and to ensure we are prepared to respond to unforeseen events or emergencies over time. For example, the region experienced harsh effects of post-tropical storm Dorian last fall. While the community responded proactively to this event, we also took some good lessons away from that experience. To that end, we are working on several tasks, all with the goal of helping us ensure we are as prepared as we can be for the future emergencies and catastrophic events. And still on the theme of making our community safer, I want to highlight some projects that will enable more effective traffic management and pedestrian safety. One of the key components of traffic management and safety is to pinpoint areas of growth in our community and design solutions to meet the needs of these areas. For example, we will be implementing left turn lanes at the corner of Pope Road and Greenwood Drive, as well as from Water Street East onto Gillespie Avenue and from Water Street East onto Small Avenue. These projects will facilitate improved traffic flow in areas of the city that have experienced significant growth over the last few years. I want to now focus on two of the many critical components of our infrastructure. The city is fortunate to have two fire stations to serve our community. Fire Station number 1 in our downtown has served our community for over 50 years. While it is still functional, we acknowledge that there is a need to either update or replace this facility to ensure we remain compliant with standards for fire response and safety. With that in mind, we will be conducting an assessment of the facility to determine the key aspects of the building that need to be renovated or updated. This assessment will help provide a blueprint for determining whether the city proceeds to renovate the current facility or construct an entirely new one. This station will continue to serve our community in tandem with Fire Hall number 2 in St. Elners, which will also be refurbished over time. In keeping with the need to maintain and renew our infrastructure, it is incumbent upon us to ensure the safety, security, and reliability of our energy supply. Earlier tonight, I spoke about the fact that we are following through on recommendations by Dunsky Consulting to provide a more secure future for the delivery of safe, cost-effective electricity to our city. To that end, it is anticipated that our electric utility will have approximately $3.6 million of infrastructure to be replaced and upgraded each year for the next 10 years. In addition, we need to plan accordingly to set aside resources in the event that unanticipated requirements emerge over time. This is parallel with our best efforts to reduce the electric utility accumulated operating deficit. 5 years ago, this deficit was more than $4 million. I am pleased to report that we have eliminated this deficit so that we can allocate financial resources to the most critical areas of need in our electric utility. Furthermore, the electric utility helps support the provision of city programs and services. More specifically, the utility provides direct and indirect support of almost 30% of the cost of city programs and services. Without the support of the electric utility to maintain the programs and services we have now would require an increase to the property tax rate of almost 65 cents, an increase of 88%. To put this into context, the owner of a $200,000 home would be charged an additional $927 per year, or $77 per month on the rate increase alone. I'd like to give a couple of examples of how the electric utility has supported the delivery of city programs and services. Credit Union Place as a recreational service provider, relies on user fees for 40% of its revenue, with the remainder coming from property tax revenues. Without the indirect support of the electric utility, the user fees for Credit Union Place programs would have to be much higher than their current levels in order to maintain our current pace of cost recovery. As well, the utility's support of city programs and services has enabled us to hold the line on property tax rates since the city was formed in 1995. This is remarkable as an accomplishment when one considers that most municipalities across the country routinely increase their property tax rates every year in response to increasing costs of services. Generally speaking, communities our size in Atlantic Canada are challenged to provide the wealth of activities and programs that we enjoy because of the electric utility. For example, it is due in no small part to the contributions of the electric utility that we have a multi-purpose sports and entertainment facility as well as a world-class boardwalk along our waterfront. And one point that I want to make personally is that our forefathers over 100 years ago maintained the importance and significance of owning and operating Summerside Electric Utility. And to that date, I believe that our council still feels the very same way. It has been very, very beneficial and important to this community. I mentioned at the start of my speech that Summerside Electric desires to provide cost-effective electricity. It has not been without its challenges. Over the last couple of years, we have had to start paying an additional $375,000 annually for the city's share of the new undersea electric cables in the Northumberland Strait, and to pay an additional $300,000 annually for the right to transmit electricity through the island's transmission grid. As well, the city is no longer able to rely on eco-credits from the Government of Canada, which comes with an annual impact to our community of $430,000. These developments have come with a significant annual cost impact on the city's electric utility. Please know, however, that the city that City Council recognizes this impact and that it will continue to advocate for fairness and equity in the transmission and the delivery of electricity to all residents. For these reasons, we believe it is prudent to hold the line on electric rates. We will continue to review the costs of operations and capital and our capacity to support capital renewal of aging infrastructure, which is so critical in providing reliable, secure, and consistent electric service to everyone in our community. We also need to set aside sufficient funds in a reserve so that we can respond to future requirements or emergencies as they arise. Now, I will talk about our water and sewer system, but I'll have a drink of water first. Good water. The city of Summerside prides itself in having made many strategic infrastructure investments over the last few years. However, to maintain our existing infrastructure and to keep it working requires ongoing investment. This is no different for our water system or our sewer system. As an example, certain sections of our water system date back to the early 1900s. This is part of a transmission and distribution network of over 130 kilometers of in-ground pipes, which will cost us $4 million to maintain over the next 10 years. It is significant as a challenge to keep our water and sewer infrastructure up to date, but this must be balanced against the need to unduly burden ratepayers with this additional cost. Central to our belief is that we ensure we have the safest and highest quality drinking water system available and an efficient sewer system for our residents for decades to come. To meet this goal, our council will be implementing a 1% adjustment in water and sewer rates this year, an average adjustment of 61 cents per month per household, or 2 cents a day. I have spent the last few minutes highlighting some of the things we need to do to keep our infrastructure sound. We have made good use of long-term borrowing to finance strategic investments over time, such as our wastewater treatment plant, credit union place, and our wind farm. We have confidence in knowing that our financing decisions are based on best practice and are consistent with our council's intention to appropriately manage our debt. These decisions have been further validated by public finance experts and are in line with indicators for appropriate debt management. The long-term debt of our general fund is well within legislated limits. This is due to our program of debt management and repayment, which has given us the flexibility to finance our significant infrastructure needs while still being fiscally responsible with the tax dollars entrusted to us. Now, I want to talk about how we plan to grow our city. Your worship and members of council, to make the community one we all can be proud of, the city has invested much time and effort in developing relationships and partnerships with all sectors of our great city. Whether it is with our youth, our seniors, our young families, the arts and community culture, we are thankful for their collective efforts, and we are the better for their contributions to the fabric of our community. More recently, we celebrated the accomplishments of those who have worked hard to preserve our city's culture and heritage. It is all about remembering where we have come from to help us set a path for the future. It is also about remembering those who have gone before us to be involved in service to our country and who keep us safe each and every day. With that as a guiding principle, we will continue to work with our cultural and heritage community to look at the development of a museum to acknowledge and salute our veterans and first responders, to remember their dedication and sacrifice, and to showcase elements of their service. Residents and the business community also want more emphasis on economic development and growth. We continue to focus our efforts on attracting leading-edge organizations. In addition, we are always evaluating our current service offerings to ensure they meet the needs of our community. For example, our Bylaw, Policy, and Review Committee guides ongoing reviews of city policies and services, and to discuss ways in which our programs and services can continue to meet the needs of residents. As well, we are taking steps to grow the city's economy and to build on our successes in innovation and entrepreneurship. While we are blessed with leading-edge thinking and approaches in our city, it is still a constant challenge to attract and develop new lines of business to diversify our economy. With that in mind, as I mentioned earlier tonight, I am pleased to announce that City Council is moving to the next stage of developing our new Eco Park, which will house tenants offering new and diverse lines of business while practicing environmentally friendly ways to deliver their services. The Eco Park itself will also make use of leading-edge green technologies and best practices to minimize the park's carbon footprint. These new businesses in the Eco Park will create many good-paying jobs right here in our city. The Eco Park concept represents the culmination of many years of effort and incorporates new approaches to conventional planning practices to foster economic development without compromising the safety of the environment. More importantly, this represents an important step in developing a game-changing economic anchor for our city and to set us apart from other municipalities in Atlantic Canada. While no government can answer to all the wants of all the people, we do reach out into the community for help towards that goal. The city cannot do it alone, and indeed, every year, community groups step up to support our citizens. With that in mind, I'd like to turn our attention to the many volunteers and organizations who provide this support. We all depend on and appreciate the dedication, commitment, and perseverance of the dozens of not-for-profit organizations who deliver critical programs and important services to our local residents and community, and residents that may otherwise not be available. To ensure the most fair and equitable distribution of resources and support, the city is guided by policy, criteria, and best practice. It should be noted that in addition to the financial support that the city provides to outside groups, an additional $250,000 of in-kind services is provided to many of these groups to enable them to deliver high-quality services and programming to the broader community. I am pleased to announce that in 2020-21, the city will be committing $445,000 in community grants to these organizations to give them the opportunity to deliver much-needed programs and services in Summerside. Furthermore, Your Worship and Council, we believe strongly in keeping our recreational programs and services accessible and affordable to the community and the region. We have set a benchmark in Atlantic Canada as one of the only municipalities to provide no-cost usage of outdoor fields and the lighting of those fields. Additionally, our city boasts one of the longest waterfront boardwalks, a vast park and trail system, not to mention the state-of-the-art Credit Union Place. Our Community Services Department continues to offer one of the most diverse programming offerings in the province, all designed for social and physical well-being for residents of all ages. In order for our community, to continue to receive these health and wellness benefits, cost recovery becomes a key focal point for the city staff. Cost recovery benchmarks in municipalities across the country that we have reviewed, they range from 35 to 55%. The city's recreation revenues used to recover costs for our community services has dipped below the 40% mark. Past community budget surveys indicated that most citizens do favor more emphasis on a user-pay system than a general tax rate increase, while still keeping programs affordable for the residents. Therefore, in keeping with past years and to ensure that we can keep pace with the cost to provide these services, I am announcing a 3% adjustment in fees for users of the arena and pool at Credit Union Place. In addition, Council will make investments in recreation, parks, health and wellness, which signal our commitment to a strong, vibrant, and healthy community. For example, we will be investing $200,000 to continue the renewal of the boardwalk, $75,000 in new playground equipment across the city, along with funding to support the construction of enhanced facilities to host the 2023 Canada Winter Games. And finally, in keeping with the theme of community partnerships, I talked earlier about our youth and how they are the foundation for the future of our community. Therefore, we are pleased to announce that we are eager to continue our partnership with the province's education system on the presence of a school resource officer in Three Oaks Senior High School. This position works with students, parents, and teachers to ensure students acquire the right tools to make good decisions and to contribute to our community as upstanding citizens. I would like to finish my speech with a short summary. This past year has seen the city capitalize on significant opportunities in economic development and energy efficiency, building on its successes as a provincial and regional leader in innovation. We've heard from our residents that economic development, debt management, and infrastructure renewal continue to be major priorities. We also assess our progress in enhancing transparency and accountability on a regular basis, ensuring that my council colleagues have good information on which to base our decision and to ensure our residents know the basis for these decisions. Thanks to these accomplishments, we are on the verge of other economic opportunities for our city and the region, which will build on our strengths in areas such as energy generation and renewal. As well, our ongoing dialogue with the community represents an important building block for more public engagement in the future on a whole variety of issues for municipalities and strengthen our council's ongoing commitment to enhanced transparency and accountability. I look forward to continuing to work with all colleagues on council as we build upon the accomplishments of previous councils and set a foundation for continued success. While it is an exciting time, it is also a time for us to focus on sustainability while building for our future. I believe that the initiatives we've highlighted tonight will do both. With no reduction in services and no increase in property taxes or electric rates, I am pleased to announce that we are projecting a balanced budget in 2020-21. I want to take one last opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the management and staff of the city for the effective work they do in support of transparency, accountability, and public engagement, all for the greater good of our city and for the people we serve. Residents of Summerside, this is your budget for 2020-2021. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Oh, right up on the screen there, the class of 2020. Thank you, Deputy Mayor McColman, for your presentation of the budget for this year coming. And we'll continue on with the agenda here. Excuse me. And I personally want to thank all of the members of council and members of staff for the many hours they put in working on this budget. And I think in total our budget is close to 57 or 58 million, including the capital and general and electrical and the utilities. So it takes a lot of work and a lot of meetings, and as I'd mentioned earlier, as we all know, sitting around here, this is not all cutting ribbons and pouring tea. You know, some of the meetings are difficult, but council worked hard to get one complete and get it out there. So anyway, we're looking forward to the year. It's going to be a great year construction-wise in the city, and as Councillor McFeely will probably mention when he's saying a few words here, but we're working to get a lot of development and to increase our economic development in the city. And so this being the 25th anniversary of our city on April 1st is going to be exciting. A lot of things going on this year, and a lot of things will be promoted as part of the 25th anniversary. And this is the 25th budget for the new city, and I believe you're the first, sorry, Councillor Sudbury was the first chair of finance, and he did call. He was going to be here tonight, but he called and left a message that he couldn't make it because for good reason, and but he wanted to pass on thanks and congratulations. And I remember that first budget, and Claire, being an accountant, his background, he worked hard, and he knew where every cent was coming from and where every cent was going. So we appreciate his call there tonight. So at this point, we'll go around the chambers, and maybe members of council would like to say a few words. And since Councillor or Deputy Mayor McColman was the first one, maybe we'll start on this side, or do you want to go first? That's fine. Okay. Councillor McDougall, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow councillors, city staff. It's great to be here, and as the mayor had mentioned, 25 years, and I'm very proud and honored that this is my 25th consecutive budget.
And you and I didn't have any gray hair back then.
I never, yeah, I had a little. It was starting. But I want to take the opportunity to, first of all, congratulate Deputy Mayor McColman on the budget speech here this evening. I also want to thank our city staff and management. There's a lot of time and effort goes into the budget process in order to get to the council level. So a special shout out to Kristen Dunsford, where was she at? Our acting finance director. Another great job. There's the budgets, they just don't happen, and we have a lot of wants and needs throughout the city, and I think this was a great budget process. It went a lot smoother than we have in some other times, and one of the things that I want to mention is back in 2005, the city got quite a boost, and it was by the gas tax fund that was put in by the federal government. And so many times we take that for granted and don't thank them. And I just want to make sure that they're thanked tonight as well with the FCM for all their work in doing that.
You could add the amount that we get every year from that.
1.354, is it? Something like that?
Million.
Million, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just want to thank the council for the collaboration that we've had over the past budget process. As you know, there's lots of wants and needs, and I appreciate everybody getting a little piece of something. And my effort was for the ditch infilling. I'm pleased that you supported that this year. Lastly, I want to thank you, Your Worship, for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall, for your comments, and we'll continue on. Councillor Ramsey, the Chair of Fire and Police and a couple other things.
A lot of things.
A lot of committees. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, and fellow councillors, city staff, and ladies and gentlemen, and Deputy Mayor McColman. Thank you for your presentation. That was wonderful. This year's budget process was as difficult as I anticipated, but not as difficult as last year. So it's my second one, and so I guess I've learned a lot from the first one in our debates. Anyway, I would like to thank our CAO, Rob Philpott, Finance Director, Kristen Dunford, and City Directors for their help in completing our 2020-21 budget. I believe this budget has something for everyone, and as Chair of Police and Fire, I'm pleased to see that there is a $900,000 going towards infrastructure and equipment for Summerside Fire Services and Police Services. I'm also pleased to see the $50,000 set aside to ensure that our police officer remains in place at Three Oaks High School. We look forward to cost sharing this project with our provincial government in order to keep this officer in place. So thank you everybody for coming out this evening, and we appreciate your continued support, and thanks for the trust you have in us, and thank you, Mayor Stewart.
Thank you, Councillor Ramsey, and we have the Chair of the Electrical Department, Councillor Campbell, going to say a few words. And thanks, before you start there, I'll thank you for not increasing the electrical rates, and I think every citizen in Summerside will thank you for that. And Greg has a large budget, I think about $28 million in the electrical, and he's busy with the wind farm and the electrical utility and now the solar farm. So the floor is yours, sir.
And I don't think I'm going to say too much. It was a little rough budget time for me. I disagreed with some. I'm just really concerned that it might be getting a little too political and not paying enough attention to our directors and stuff. And I hope that doesn't go too far that way, because every citizen should be treated the same. And I thought that my ward was a little cheated, but I've learned, live and learn, and I'll be with the sleeves rolled up for next year. And it's a learning process. So you don't all of a sudden start looking at these things, and I think this is my 6th budget. So I think maybe I just flew by the first 2 or 3 and didn't know I was probably not working as hard as I should have. And anyway, I'll have the sleeves rolled up for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. And Councillor Snow, the Chair of Community Services, you had a busy year and another busy one coming up. And
Busy
the
year,
floor is
another
yours,
one
sir.
coming, exactly. I want to just start by congratulating Deputy Mayor on her presentation of the budget. A great job by her. Also our department directors and CAO for all their work. Sort of to Greg's point, I think sometimes when we do go through the budget, we at times can do a disservice to them, because they are the professionals of the city, and we need to rely on their expertise when they're telling us a lot of times where our money needs to go. We all have the wants and needs, and I do think we worked hard this budget to sort of share a lot of the wants and needs. I know as Chair of Community Services, I'm happy that we're finally starting to put some dollars into some areas of need. For example, the pool that's going to be retiled this coming year, which is definitely a concern that was brought to my attention as Chair of Community Services Department. So it's something I fought for just as hard as Bruce fought for the ditches. So that's sort of what we have to do, is listen to our residents, and then make sure we listen to our directors to come up with the best possible budget moving forward. Lastly, Your Worship, thanks for all your work on it and your direction during the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Snow, for your comments. We'll continue on to the other side, but maybe at this point, Councillor Duran, as was mentioned, is unable to be with us, but I believe he left short notice, maybe Councillor Ramsey, the Chair of Fire
He-
Services, could read it in the minutes.
He left a note for us. I'm reading this message from Councillor Justin Duran, who was unable to attend due to his new position as Lieutenant with Summerside Fire Services. And congratulations, Justin, on that position. He's attending an important training there this evening and sends his regrets. And I will add that Justin attended all of our budget meetings over the past month. So this is a little note that he left for me. 2020-21 marks the second term for the present council. As a new councillor last year, the budget process was an intense learning process that took place over a relatively short period of time. I'm happy to say that the 2021 budget process was much smoother ride due to the fact that we had to dig right in for 2019-2020. I truly believe that this budget has something to offer for everyone, while at the same time provides a consistent manageability of our city's debt. As Technical Service Chair, I am particularly proud to help lay the foundation and hit the ground running for some long-awaited infrastructure projects, such as the Pope Road Central Street intersection, the Greenwood Drive Pope Road intersection. Those are mine too, so I'm pleased. Intersection of Granville and Walker, and new lanes on Water Street, just to name a few. In 2018, residents spoke at the doorsteps, and we are finally seeing some action take place after having those conversations. This is living proof that your councillors are listening to you. I'm also proud as Vice Chair of Economic Development to see us working full steam ahead on our new Eco Park, which will establish new revenue sources for our city. I'd like to thank the Mayor, my fellow councillors, and City Management for making this process extremely efficient. I'd also like to thank all City staff who keep us all afloat 24/7. Justin Duran, Councillor, Ward 2, St. Helens, Lemon Park.
Thank you. Okay, we'll continue on. Councillor Adams is Chair of Human Resources and Legal and Bylaw and Policy Review and serve as Vice Chair on other committees, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, and welcome to everyone in attendance. It's hard to believe that another year has passed, and as council we've gone through our second budget exercise. We seem to be learning more and more about the requirements that make our city run efficiently. I would like to express thanks to Acting Director of Finance, Kristen Dunsford. Kristen, your amazing organizational skills help us through the budget process. Kristen, along with all the directors, managers, CAO Rob, supplied council on a moment's notice with any and all information that we required to make informed decisions in the best interest of all of our residents. Decisions were not made easily, and there was much discussion. But at the end of the day, each of us made decisions that we felt were in the best interest of our residents and our city as a whole. And I'm sure that picture must have been taken after a late night budget session, because we look a little worse for the wear on that one. I'd like to thank the provincial government, but especially the Department of Transportation, Infrastructure and Energy, for always being responsive to the requests from residents in Ward 8. Part of Ward 8 is serviced by the province in regard to roads, plowing, lighting, and so on. So it is very nice to be able to have an open dialogue with that department in order to meet the needs of our residents. Thank you for the additional lighting along Reed Drive. This will help to enhance the entrance to our city that will only be made better with the addition of the gateway signage for Reed Drive, which was announced by Deputy Mayor. The past year has seen many developments in our city and in our ward specifically. Increased traffic has caused increased concerns with traffic congestion, flow, and speeding. In this budget, we see there is a left turn lane being installed onto Small Avenue from Water Street East. This will assist with traffic flow leaving Summerside in peak hours and will also make driving safer for the approximately 400 homes off of Small Avenue. I would like to thank Council for keeping ditch infilling a commitment for this coming year. The past year has also seen, among many things, the addition of stop signs, speed limit signage, no exit signs, a solar-powered speed sign in Ward 8. These traffic calming initiatives will hopefully assist with ongoing traffic issues we are experiencing. I want residents to be aware that while there may not be speed reduction initiatives mentioned in this budget for your specific street, I will continue to work with police, technical, and municipal services to ensure the traffic issues in our area are being reviewed and that any and all possible solutions are being implemented as always. In closing, I would like to thank everyone from residents to staff for our input into the budget process. I'd like to thank your worship for your ongoing support and many questions that we ask. We may be a small city, but in terms of ideas, ambition, and opportunity, we're larger than life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. And next we'll have Councillor Brian McFeely. He's Chair of Economic Development and also Vice Chair of Finance and Chair of the Planning Board, and we know he's heading up the Canada 2023 Canada Games as co-chair or co-chair, and also a former Director of Community Services. And I see tonight we have another former Director of Community Services, Bill Skierman, with us. He was a long-time employee with Summerside. So we will turn the floor over to you, sir. Councillor McFeely.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too would want to start by congratulating the Deputy Mayor on her excellent presentation of the budget tonight, and also want to express appreciation to my fellow councillors. This budget, like all others, was a difficult exercise. I'm not quite as old as Councillor McDougall and the Mayor, so it's only my sixth budget, but
You haven't got as much gray hair yet
oh,
either.
yeah.
We're
I'm
working
just
on
pleased.
that.
I'm just pleased to have some. No.
I just started early.
As Vice Chair of Finance, I'm very pleased that we've been able to present a budget that holds the line on tax rates and electric rates. This is no easy task, given that we continue to see expenses increasing. The Deputy Mayor spoke on that. 13% over the past 5 years, and revenues not growing anywhere near that. So it's a very difficult task to get to that point where you have a balanced budget. As Chair of Economic Development, I'm excited by the opportunities afforded to us in the budget. As many of you will know, this council has embarked on a 4-year strategy to grow our commercial tax revenue from 18 to 21% of our total tax revenue. The investment in the Echo Park is a centerpiece to achieving that goal. So the Echo Park, if you look at it just on the construction alone, the indirect impact of that is significant from an economic development perspective. Also pretty excited about the Summerside Sunbank project. The wage during construction alone is $10 million, and then there's $7 million in indirect costs. So you apply the multipliers to that, it's significant from an economic development perspective. As the councillor representing Ward 7, Green Shore, Three Oaks, you don't get everything you want in the budget, and you win some and you lose some. And it's always a balancing act between doing what's good for your ward and then doing what's good for the greater good of the city. So it's always a challenge from that perspective. But I'm pleased that we were able to have a few successes for Ward 7, particularly the turning lane on Gillespie off of Water Street East, and also the continued. I have a little bit different ward than a lot of other people. I kind of have partly part of the old town of Summerside and partly part of Wilmot, so I have about half of my ward ditch infilling is of no concern to them. The other half, it's a significant concern to them. So I'm pleased that council has seen fit to continue with the ditch infilling program. In conclusion, Your Worship, the Deputy Mayor described very well some of the challenges we are facing. If we're going to be able to continue to offer the services we are accustomed to, we need to increase our revenue sources, and we begin to do that with some economic development perspective, from an economic development perspective. I also want to acknowledge the effort and the leadership provided by Kristen and CAO Rob in the budget exercise, as well as all the senior staff who were present throughout the budget exercise, and thank them them for their professionalism and guidance as we work towards finalizing that budget. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor McFeely. And you had mentioned there the turning lanes, but I think it's in the budget as well for the turning lanes on Pope and Greenwood Drive.
Greenwood, yeah, as well, yeah.
And
Yeah.
there'll be some work on Pope and Central there too, so that's still in the mix. Anyway, thank you for your presentation, and you want to have a few more words, Deputy Mayor?
A few more personal comments instead of just the formal part of the speech. I guess for me, every time we go through a budget process, I think this is my 16th one, and every time I learn so much through the process. But I think really to me what it's starting to amount to is the oath of office that we take as elected officials to work diligently and to try and work as much with those taxpayers' dollars to disperse that in a way that it meets a lot of the needs within the city. Also, another thing that I have really learned through this process and others is that our critical infrastructure and our water and sewer, all of those kinds of things, we really must be very diligent and good stewards of that, because if we don't take care of those things, then we're going to end up being in situations where we won't be able to provide all of the other things that we love to provide within our community. And sometimes that's not an easy process to go through. And another thing that I've really learned is how important it is for our senior management, the directors. I want to personally thank them for their input, as well as CAO Rob Philpott and Director of Finance Kristen, and also Brian for keeping us live on stream and keeping us in order for reminders of agendas and things like that. But without all of that, we wouldn't be working as well-oiled as we try to do. And I think it's a really important learning curve for us, and I just thank the residents for coming out, because for us, believe it or not, we really try very hard to make it a very, very fair, but most importantly, we want it to be a balanced budget. And finally, I want to thank you, Mayor Basil, for your leadership and support and advice to all of us, as well as my councillor colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we've gotten to the end of the agenda. I believe they have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and maybe a cookie for us afterwards, so you're welcome to stay for a little reception. So I guess we're still on YouTube, so is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McDougall and seconded by Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much.